Gaurav Sawant is joining us. Gaurav, in terms of the conversations that would be happening among journalists, I mean, it's a massive media center where journalists from all the nations, I would say, who have emerged for covering the SCO summit, what is the sense that you pick up in those conversations?
So one of the most important aspects in my conversation with Chinese journalists has been they're very surprised the manner in which India stood up to the United States of America. The fact that India continues to take oil from Russia. The fact that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has had a very successful visit to Japan. Now, these are three key takeaways that we've had conversations about in the past 24 hours, and especially this morning. The conversation has been all about how India-China relationship is poised to grow. As Professor Brahmachilani very rightly pointed out, that India's reset 2.0 with China happened even before Donald Trump came to the White House. I was reporting from Kazan on the sidelines of BRICS summit when Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi Jinping met, and that led to that direction led to the disengagement at the remaining two friction points. But disengagement is not enough. Beyond disengagement, are we looking at de-escalation and something that Wang Yi indicated, or are we understanding that correctly, where you're talking about demarcation at the line of actual control? And should there be demarcation, that would be a very significant step, and that's something where Professor Brahmachilani, Ambassador Sajjanhar, Geeta, and you can perhaps take this conversation forward. What does demarcation actually mean at the border? Will that ultimately lead to heavier weapons moving back to their peacetime locations, and then focus more on economic cooperation between India and China? Economic cooperation which very significantly would mean Indian goods getting more access to Chinese markets and reducing the trade deficit, which stands at a whopping $100 billion. India's relationship with Japan is one massive headline right now.
That's right.
There are billions of dollars, $60-odd billion investment in India, the lunar cooperation, the defense cooperation, the movement of skilled and semi-skilled labor between India and Japan. That is one relationship that's moving forward with the speed of the bullet train and more. So that's perhaps one of the most significant outcomes already of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's two-nation visit. Should there be a key takeaway from China, that'll be a win-win, and something that Donald Trump will not be very happy about. Amidst reports that Donald Trump, there are reports from Washington, D.C. that seem to indicate that he may want to, or at least he's giving those indications that he may want to give the Quad summit a skip, which would be a disaster considering in his first tenure, Quad became a summit-level interaction, and he gave a fillip to Quad, and now he's kind of furiously backpedaling. So lots that's changing geopolitically right now, and here in Kazan, a lot of indications could come where the world is headed.
Okay, Ambassador Rajamouni, the point that has been made here is very significant, about de-escalation and disengagement. How far will India and China go in terms of having a conversation of that nature in this bilateral?
Well, normally these details are not discussed at the summit level, and all summits are pre-scripted. There would have already been a great deal of detailed discussions which have taken place in the run-up to the summit. So I do not expect Prime Minister Modi and President Xi to go into the details of either de-escalation or de-engagement. However, Foreign Minister Wang Yi's visit to India yielded a very substantive statement from the Indian side on what is the way forward, the different mechanisms which will be created, which will look at various aspects of addressing peace and tranquility on the border, as well as the overall border question. So I expect President Xi and Prime Minister Modi to give a green signal and say that this is a good decision. We will continue to move forward as fast as possible on this path. The border issue is extremely complicated. As I said, the fundamental priority for India would be to ensure that there is peace and tranquility. We have no more clashes of the kind Galwan that we saw in Galwan, and also that China does not make aggressive moves into what we consider Indian territory. And at the same time, both sides can pull back their troops, can reduce the armaments, and either look at the old CBMs which already exist and implement them in true letter and spirit. These CBMs had completely collapsed, or look at a completely new set of CBMs which would be applicable to the current scenario and to the future.
Yes, because Geeta, you said it rightly, that there's been a lot of work which has gone into the bilateral, which we'll be seeing today. There have been multiple, meetings which have happened at several levels. But this today is happening in the backdrop of a crucial order which came from a US court which declared all the Trump tariffs as illegal. Do you think that will make the two leaders view this bilateral dialogue differently?
Well, again, I don't know whether they're looking at it completely through the America prism. This is a very important meeting, and it has been a continuous process when it comes to how the leaders met in Kazan and thereafter. But yes, they have changed in terms of how they want to engage tactics after the decisions and the manner in which America has been dealing not just with India or China, but with the world. Having said that, Maria, I just would like to respond to what Ambassador Rajamani was saying. While I'm not one of those who'd like to hyphenate India and Pakistan, but the Wang Yi visit was very important. He went from India to Afghanistan and then to Pakistan. And when a journalist asked him about his visit, he said that in Pakistan, standing in Pakistan, this is the most important visit and meeting that I've had. So that's absolute clarity. Let's not look at it from the prism of how India and China are important for each other, that there's always going to be a Pakistan factor for India, because while China is an important and close neighbor, the fact that Pakistan is also our neighbor and a very troubled relationship that India shares with Pakistan. Also, to Gaurav, Quad summit level meeting began with Biden as president. In fact, Donald Trump has not given enough importance to Quad at all. And if we look at Donald Trump missing the Quad meeting in India, it is not because only of India. It is because relations with Japan are quite testy right now. Their talks and conversations with Japan are not the way Trump would like them to be. And that's also one of the reasons why he's not attaching enough importance to the Quad.
So what's really the future of the Quad then?
Is that for me?
To Gaurav then.
Well, Quad is something that 4 countries came forward for. It's India, it's Japan, it's Australia, and the United States of America. All 4 thought of raising it to the level of a summit thinking that this is a relationship that will hold countries in good stead, especially when you talk about free Indo-Pacific, free movement of goods, services, and movement in the Indo-Pacific region, keeping the sea lanes of communication open. If Trump is furiously backpedaling, that would just show that what his vision for this entire region is, and whether he's thinking of a G2 kind of an arrangement with China. And if he is, will that be in America's long-term national interest, or is Donald Trump only thinking of his short-term interest and not long-term US interest? Because in the long term, one, of course, as most argue, we'll all be dead. But before that, will we see China as the dominant power and not the United States? And would Donald Trump actually want to see China emerge as the dominant world power and not the United States of America? Again, these are certain things that he will have to grapple with. He's taken a certain worldview right now. Professor Brahmachalani, would perhaps, Ambassador Rajamani or Ambassador Sachanar would be in a better position to answer as we report from ground this equation that is very fast changing in the Indo-Pacific. I mean, are we indicating that Donald Trump is now withdrawing so much that China will then, play a bigger role in the Indo-Pacific region? That clearly would seem trouble for Taiwan, trouble for Japan, trouble for South Korea, trouble for the region.
Okay, Brahmachalani?